Welcome guys, I'm Blaine Blast. Welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are excited as I am to return to the school of witchcraft and wizardry in this grand epic adventure through a world of magic, intrigue, and mystery. Back in 2002, the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone movie would release to the theaters when I was 11 years old, and my school would schedule a field trip to see the movie. Back then, all I knew and watched was anime. Basically the same as every other kid my age at the time, but nonetheless, a field trip was a field trip, and I was going. We got to the theater and thank God our spots were reserved because it was absolutely packed to the very last seat. I had never heard of Harry Potter before and had no particular feelings toward the idea of it. The idea of magicians and wand waving didn't really grab my attention like Kuwabara's spirit sword or a meaty Kamehameha wave. When the movie began, I was immediately captivated by the cinematography and majesty of each and every scene. I could seldom take my eyes off it. I can remember when the first years floated across the lake and finally touched castle grounds. The entire crowd would stand up and give a lengthy applause, but as for me, I couldn't move. I was absolutely entranced, not even flinching at the uproar of applause, nor did I look away for even 1 second. The extremely comfortable and warm feeling I felt while at Hogwarts was so endearing, I would find a way to immediately get my hands on the movie directly after that theater release. I would sit for hours watching the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone DVD on repeat, endlessly, to the point where I can recite each and every line from the movie, and that is not hyperbole. Every time I engage in any activity involving the Harry Potter series, I can feel a similar warmth to what I felt all those years ago in that theater. This movie was so serious that when I initially went to see it, it played in the IMAX. The IMAX my father was the director of, but only for a short period of time the movie played. Since that time, I've watched the Harry Potter franchise grow into a cultural institution with all sorts of conventions and people cosplaying the wizards and even making replica wands of the ones used in the movies. People crave the world of witchcraft and wizardry so badly that they've even launched stage adaptations where they will delve deeper into the lore of this amazing franchise, exploring ideas untouched upon. Because I am a diehard gamer, I seldom have time to read. If I'm at my PC, I'm always playing a game. That's why I don't read manga, nor have I had time to read any of the Harry Potter books, so I've not explored them yet. It's pretty hard to read a book while you're playing a game. Trust me, I've tried. Now, all the other Harry Potter video games we've had up until now have been...
Crab, take care of this upstart. Now, Potter, I'll give you a taste of my super wizard crackers.
Grip, I need to get inside Gringotts Bank, into one of the vaults.
It is impossible.
Alone, yes. With you, no.
The Sword of Gryffindor is my price.
Study hard, and you will be rewarded. Fail to do so, and the consequences may be severe.
Well, we don't talk about those. Even me, as a Harry Potter hyperfan, would investigate these games, and it was just blatantly apparent that each new one that was coming out over the years was an obvious vehicle for badly remade scenes from all the movies. It's been a pretty bad few decades for gamers who love Harry Potter, to say the least. When we got the trailer roughly 3 years ago for Hogwarts Legacy, my head almost exploded. I mean, this trailer was amazing. It would accrue over 85 million views and ignited a raging inferno of excitement in my heart and mind. Me and my friends would sit on the fan site for the game, taking the house test and questionnaires to determine which schoolhouses we would be and what kind of materials our wands would be made of. The fact that the game wouldn't follow any kind of movie script and would be its own entity, set in a completely different time period from the movies, had us really excited for what kind of adventures it had in store for us. But that's enough out of me though, so what exactly is Hogwarts Legacy? Hogwarts Legacy is an action role-playing video game released in 2023. Developed by Avalanche Software and published by Portkey Games. You play as a 5th-year student who enrolls in Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry late and embark on a journey to unearth ancient secrets concealed within the wizarding world. We're not going to talk about J.K. Rowling because she's a piece of shit. But the game was released to the Windows, PS5, and Xbox Series X on May 5th. We won't be mentioning the Switch release of the game because Nintendo Switches are for playing Pokemon and Smash Bros. During this game's early access period, the game would break world records on Twitch, becoming the #1 most watched single-player game of all time on platform. Within 2 weeks of launch, the game sold more than 12 million copies and generated more than 850 million in global sales. And by 2024, the game would reach 24 million copies sold, accruing more than $1 billion in revenue. So with all that out of the way, let's finally begin our grandiose school year at Hogwarts in this amazing world of witchcraft and wizardry. Now I've been waiting for this moment an entire 2/3 of my life. That exciting Hogwarts acceptance letter. We are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry as a 5th year student. Terms begin on the 1st of September. As you may be aware, the decree for reasonable restriction of underage sorcery prohibits the use of magic by those under the age of 17 outside of school. However, due to your unique circumstances, the Ministry has graciously agreed to allow Professor Eleazar Fig to help you hone your spellcasting before escorting you to London to the castle for the start of the feast and sorting ceremony. Yours sincerely, Professor Weasley, Deputy Headmistress. That sweet, sweet smell of adventure. Now we can create our character, and the character creator has many different presets and faces for you to choose from. It's not incredibly in-depth, but it has enough options for you to create something that at least looks similar to what you want. None of the hair is gender-locked, nor the voices or titles. You can be a typical male body and still call yourself a witch as opposed to wizard if you so choose. A total loogie in the face of that anti-Semite bigot J.K. Rowling, and I'm 1000% on board. We finally get a wizard all sorted, and we can finally begin our amazing journey through the world of witchcraft and wizarding.
It appears we are almost ready to depart. It's a pity we didn't have a bit more time to spend on spellcasting. I presume you've been practicing the spells we worked on.
I have, Professor.
Well, I'm quite sure I've never seen anyone take so quickly to a second-hand wand. You'll be a force to be reckoned with when you get your own.
Thank you, Professor Fig. I appreciate you working with me before the term begins.
Eleazar! George! Glad my rather cryptic description of our location did not thwart your finding us.
I've apparated to more vaguely defined destinations than this. Though I confess I may have miscalculated slightly on my first try. Gave quite the fright to some theatergoers in the West End.
Graphics are looking absolutely spot on, and the facial expressions of the characters work extremely well. To me, the graphical style they have going on is very distinct and oozes witchcraft and wizarding. Now, as a trio of spiffing Brits, it's time to actually get en route to Hogwarts. The game makes no effort to allude to any family we might have or might have had, nor does it give any backstory for our character, besides that our wand is secondhand and we've been trained in spellcasting prior to this event. It may have been a good gesture to detail a bit more about the player's background, but in the same breath I can also see how that might add unsavory elements to an already fleshed out story. As gamers, we always end up, no matter what, wanting more out of our games, even if we've been given more from the start. Look at games like Baldur's Gate 3, which is an absolutely phenomenal title with a plethora of details and content. Yet the community still thirsts for advances in every field. That music though, that music really excites me. It's not from any of the other productions, but it's still just as recognizable.
Have you seen this?
I have. Opinions differ as to how great a threat Ranrock really is.
Although I've yet to convince my colleagues at the Ministry, I believe he is a significant threat. Whatever magic protects this is powerful indeed.
It looks like goblin metal. That symbol.
What's that glow?
I don't see a glow.
Nor do I.
And of course, not even 5 minutes into the game, it's being alluded to that we're some sort of chosen one. I'd much rather be a regular student at Hogwarts who's recognized on my merits and not for being Neo.
Wait. We do.
So apparently we just saw Mr. George Ostrick die between that dragon's jaws. Rather sad, because I really liked him. The confirmation that he actually did die lies in the materialization of these winged beasts pulling the carriage. You can only see those creatures when you witness a death, so the game is relying on the player's prior knowledge of the wizarding world. A nice touch. The intuition and quick thinking of the professor allows us for an expeditious escape from the dragon's clutches.
The key! Give me your hand!
Professor Fig did not actually know what would happen when he touched that key, which is why he told us not to put hands on it initially. He only took a guess that it might teleport us elsewhere, which is why he instructed us to give him our hand before he actually touched it.
You're hurt.
Perhaps a bit.
Take this. It's Wiggenweld potion. That stuff will right you in a second.
I'm feeling better, sir, if you'd like to look around a bit.
I would. But stay close. We've no idea who created this portkey. Or why.
Having been teleported to a strange cliff, our professor suggests that we get a move on and find out where we've actually been led to. The object Professor Fig had in that lockbox that only we were able to open turned out to be a portkey, an object that will teleport the person who touches it to a specific place.
How far did that portkey take us?
Farther from London than the carriage travelled. We're somewhere in the Scottish Highlands.
Sir, those ruins. Do you
The
think...
portkey was meant to lead us there? I do. Steady yourself! Reparo!
As the professor uses Reparo on this bridge, I genuinely get shivers up my spine. The badassery of the visuals here are second to none. Portkey Games have really managed to capture the majesty of the wizarding occupation. As we continue to explore our new surroundings, we begin to notice things that only the student can see.
What's this? Professor Fig!
How odd. Why would someone have conjured that enchanted stone here?
Through the wall, we're able to see a room of lavish architecture gilded in gold and marble, while the professor can only still see a wall.
I don't see anything.
There's that glow again, like the glow on the portkey container.
What in Merlin's name? Godric's heart.
Where are we?
I don't believe it.
We appear to have been led to Hogwarts Wizarding Bank, and the goblin at reception seems to have already instructions to accommodate us without any sort of introduction.
Welcome to Gringotts Wizarding Bank. Vault number 12, I presume.
Precisely.
The key?
Your wife's portkey.
Oh, yes, of course.
Then we get a ride on the rail cart through a very familiar area, the Caves of Gringotts. I've always wondered about these things because we aren't strapped in and the thing is veering left and right at high speed, so how the hell are we not going flying? I understand the explanation is probably just magic, but I wish they'd say it because it looks absolutely wild.
Vault number?
Vault 12. Momentous day.
On your way.
What do you suppose we should be looking for?
I'm not sure. Sir, I wonder if you
The
might...
instructions for Vault 12 indicate that I am to grant access to the holder of the key and then close the door.
Wait!
Alright, now that we're locked in here, let's learn our first spell, Revelio. In order to learn it, we need to first perform the motions of the action with our joystick.
Revelio. There! I saw something.
Revelio will help us reveal hidden objects of interest such as treasure chest or quest objectives, as well as enemies within its range.
Lumos! This is no ordinary vault. I suspect we will need to earn our way out of here.
The Wizarding Bank is serious business, and within its halls and walls lies the most grievous and wondrous secrets. The security contingencies in this place will allow almost no pushback. If you get stuck in here, you're stuck, and that's that. No magic will save you unless it's already existing inside of one of these vaults. Our second spell will be Lumos, a simple illumination spell.
Lumos.
Well done.
Now the reflection is turning towards me. It does follow the light.
This battle section here will serve as our introductory tutorial to combat, with certain objectives to complete like blocking incoming attacks. And Professor Fig is especially badass during this encounter, I might add.
Potato!
Accio! Dissecto! Levioso! Deposo!
Pushing and pulling his enemies to and away from him, sending them crashing down towards the ground, absolutely obliterating them with destructive magic. Pretty insane for an old man to be able to move that way.
Potato Confringo! Expulso! Stupefy! Levioso!
Lumos. Professor! Professor Fig! Professor, where are you?
After the battle, we're separated from Professor Fig and are on our own for the duration of the dungeon.
Where am I supposed to go? What's happening? The wisps of magic seem to be leading me somewhere. It seems I have no choice. I'm going to have to fight my way out of here.
Our second battle sequence has us learn Protego, or our block mechanic, to also parry and counter enemy. Now this combat is so incredibly smooth and the wand movements are seamless. Everything you do is done with nominal grace, and the transition from blocking to countering, probably the most satisfying combat mechanic I've seen in a video game. I cannot commend this combat enough, and as you accrue more skills and integrate them into your battle scenarios, you really become a badass wizard who can control enemies as well as the battlefield. When I would dream of a Hogwarts video game, the number one concern was always how would they integrate the combat, and I think the way they've done it here is just spot on. I doubt I could think of a better system.
There you are. How did you... What is this place?
I don't know, but I found this floating above that basin.
These two people, Professor Percival Rackham and Professor Charles Rockwood, were Hogwarts professors of past, and are in possession of an earth-shattering secret that serves as the crux of our story.
All is in place. The portkey is well hidden. Perhaps too well. I wonder if the path we've created may be impossible to follow.
Someone's coming.
Who were they?
I don't know. But, sir, you shouldn't be in here.
I was right.
Ranrock.
Goblins of the wizarding world can cast incredible magic naturally. In past times, their opposition to wizards and witches caused scathing wars, resulting in unfathomable loss.
And why are you here?
No need for that. Just give me whatever it is you found here and we can let bygones be bygones.
Loss is so great that once wizard kind was victorious, they forbade goblins from wielding magical conduits such as wands for the foreseeable future.
Perhaps your young friend here will be more helpful.
After we escape this Ranrock by the skin of our teeth, we appear outside of the Hogwarts school grounds. Finally, we're here.
Come. We have a sorting ceremony to get to. For the moment, I ask that you keep all that's happened this evening between you and me.
Of course, sir.
I do think it's just a bit strange for Professor Fig to not want to tell his colleagues about the events that just happened. I mean, I can understand him not wanting us to run around telling the students, but for him to not want to tell other professors does throw up a red flag for me. At least one at half or quarter mast.
Fig, nice of you to join us. The sorting ceremony's over.
There were complications.
Complications?
The pompous headmaster brings us over to the legendary hat of sorting so that we can be sorted into our house.
They are Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin.
Ah, yes. A bit older than the others, aren't you? You come here with preferences and preconceptions. Certain expectations. You belong in Slytherin!
This time we're allowed to choose which house we would like to join, and I fully intend to be a dark wizard on this playthrough, so of course we choose Slytherin. Professor Weasley gives us a warm welcome to Hogwarts and shows us to our house dormitory.
I'm Professor Weasley. Would you be so kind as to show our new student to their common room?
I shall see to it, sir.
Red hair and a hand-me-down robe. You must be a Weasley.
Aspiration.
Well done. Now, go on in and get some sleep.
We awaken the dorms and head down to our beautiful common room. The ambience here oozes dark wizard, and I'm just loving the attention to detail presented here. I really do feel like I'm in Hogwarts, and it just makes me so happy. Now we can go and introduce ourselves to a few classmates. First of the bunch is Sebastian Sallow.
Can I help you? Ah, you're the new 5th year. I'm Sebastian Sallow.
Sebastian is a bit of a mischievous student, frequently in and out of detention and restricted sections of the castle.
He was a friend of Professor Fig's who merely joined us for the ride.
Still, impressive.
Next of the bunch is Imelda Reyes. Imelda is full of self-confidence to the point where she's full of herself regarding subjects she's versed in, notably flying, and she's not afraid to let it be known.
Ah, I know who you are. You're the new Slytherin, the one who barged in with Professor Fig last night. Interesting tactic on your first day, taking all the attention away from the first years. I'm Imelda, by the way. Shame I wasn't with you in Fig. I could have lured that dragon away. My skills on a broom are legendary.
The last of the bunch just for now is Ominous Gaunt, direct descendant of Salazar Slytherin, the founder of House Slytherin, who was a pure-blood maniac and infamous dark wizard.
Ah, based on all the chatter when you entered the common room, I'm guessing you're the new 5th year. I'm Ominous. Ominous Gaunt.
Nice to meet you, Ominous.
Well, you certainly had a memorable arrival.
Now, Ominous himself doesn't believe in any nonsense like blood purity and seems to be a pretty respectable person. We meet back up with Professor Weasley and she lets us know where to prepare for our owls.
Owls?
Yes, your ordinary wizarding level exams. They will determine what type of career you can have when you leave here.
So in many of the past titles, it didn't even feel like the devs knew what was going on, let alone anything about the world of Harry Potter. They really just seemed like devs who wanted to make a video game that watched a few scenes from Harry Potter and tried their best to remake them. I mean, in certain situations, they couldn't even get the music right, and what I can only understand that to mean is that they didn't hear it at all. But what you can actually feel here is the spirit of the wizarding world. Like, Harry Potter geeks were sitting behind all the devs, nitpicking any detail they saw fit. I mean, this is fucking amazing. She then gives us a tome of sorts containing many assignments, as well as quests for us. This will basically be our guide to the game that will facilitate everything from quest tracking navigation to achievements. Now Professor Weasley will show us around the castle a bit. The first thing we're taught about is the fast travel system. Once you unlock the fast travel points, you can use Floo Flames to fast travel back and forth between them.
That's it. Very good. Now don't forget to speak very, very clearly.
Diagonally.
What did he say, dear?
Diagonally.
So after we learn about that, we're led into the central hall, where students from all houses congregate to socialize.
Always something happening here. It's the heart of the hive. Our King's Cross station, so to speak.
Professor Weasley lets us know what our schedule will be today.
You'll be expected to attend both Charms and Defense Against the Dark Arts classes today. And I'd like to be sure you get to Hogsmeade as soon as possible to replace the supplies you lost on the way here.
The professor inquires about what we got up to with Professor Fig after the dragon attack, and once again we dodge her advances.
My suspicion is that there's more to the story than a search for belongings and an extended trip up to the castle.
I'm sorry, Professor, but I'm afraid that's all there is to it.
Once again, it's very strange that Fig won't even tell someone as seemingly trustworthy as Professor Weasley. Fig lets us know that we need to quickly become more adept in our understanding of magic if we're to continue safely with him down the path the two of you started down at Gringotts before he lets us go.
For now, focus on your classes and pay attention. More than your owls may hinge on the magic you are able to master within these walls.
So first things first, off to Charms class. Charms is comprised of a very wide array of different spells concerned with giving a target, be it an object or individual, new and unexpected properties and or making the target perform certain actions.
The ability to make objects fly.
At Charms class, we meet a new character, the very adorable and very, very happy Natsai Onai, or Natty for short.
Hello, I am Nettie. So you are the new student.
The teacher in Charms class, Professor Abraham Ronan, is a very colorful, upbeat older gentleman with quite the pep in his step.
Shall we begin? Welcome to Year 5 of Charms. Now, this will be a crucial year in your education on the art of charm work, but I am confident that we will take hold with the passion and rigor requisite of such a challenge. Right, now, everyone, please open your textbooks to page 517.
The energy he exudes seems to put a smile on almost every single student's face. I hope that when I'm that age, I can be like that as well. He teaches us a new charm by the name of Accio. We can use Accio to push and pull objects to or away from us.
Accio. That is not bad.
Impressed with our quick acclimation to the new spell, Professor Ronan decides to have us apply our newly learned spell practically in the form of a game. A game that quickly evolves into a competition with his star pupil, Natty.
Splendid!
So after we get our revenge on Natty, we can learn a few things about her.
I transferred here from Wagadu just before my 4th year. My mother received an offer to teach divination here. Before I knew it, we had left Uganda and were halfway around the world at a new school in a new country.
Next, we can make our way through the castle a bit, which is incredibly detailed. I really couldn't ask for more here. This is everything I dreamed it would be, fine details and all. I had never imagined that they would go this far with the size and scale of the castle. Truly impressed to no end, and I love being here. Our next class is Defense Against the Dark Arts. Defense Against the Dark Arts is a class where we learn to attack and defend ourselves with magic of a more destructive nature. The teacher here is Professor Dina Heckett, an older woman with an amazing understanding of destructive magic.
Levioso! Professor Heckett!
Perhaps you'd be good enough to blast each other to pieces in your own time. I get new students every year, but I only have one Hebridean black skull.
Here we get to experience our first wizard-on-wizard duel against Sebastian Sallow.
Basic cast and Protego. You may begin.
Levioso, this can't be your first duel. Let's just say I'm a quick learner.
Don't call my students this adept.
You know, you might be a perfect fit for a certain exclusive, unsanctioned dueling organization.
After we defeat Sebastian, he finds it appropriate to invite us to an underground dueling club.
Exclusive and unsanctioned. Count me in.
What's a year at Hogwarts without getting up to our fair share of mischief, I always say. So next we're to head to Hogsmeade Village to pick up our school supplies after the ones we came with got destroyed in the dragon attack. So once again, Professor Weasley asks us if there's anything we would like to tell her about the dragon attack.
I'd wager there's a good deal more to your travels here than what you've told me. Isn't there?
Nothing more, Professor.
I see. Like trying to get a sonnet from a streeler.
Before we're actually allowed to go to Hogsmeade Village, we need to learn a new charm from Professor Ronan, Reparo. the same skill we saw Professor Fig use on the bridge back at the cliffs.
Perhaps a painted lover thought it too accurate and lashed out.
Reparo will be used quite often on our adventure to right things that have seemingly gone quite wrong. Now that we got that spell under our belt, it's time to meet Sebastian so we can head to Hogsmeade Village. Me and Sebastian head out into the beautiful courtyard so we can begin on our path to Hogsmeade Village, which is a short jaunt from the castle. It is beautiful out here. They really spared no expense. The quality of detail here is that of the same caliber when we were inside the castle. I just can't believe that it looks so good. Lacewing flies, as well as other flora we find out and about, will come in handy when we get into potion making class. So this part here seems to clarify that Mr. George really did die in that dragon attack, because you aren't able to actually see these creatures unless you've also seen a person die. I mean, we could have seen death before that incident somewhere in the course of our life, but it seems to me that that's an indication that Mr. George really did die in that accident. Finally, we reach Hogsmeade Village, and my god, the music and architecture here feels so familiar to me.
Honestly, if one could bottle the magic of this place.
I feel so at home around here, and they've absolutely nailed the Wizarding World architecture and aesthetic, with obtusely shaped window panes and non-conforming geometry. I mean, like, Hogsmeade Village is my jam. So our first stop is Ollivander's Wands, so that we can choose our own personal wand.
Ah, it's you. Just a moment, please.
Hello?
I wondered when I'd be seeing you, Mr. Potter.
Oh dear. Oh goodness. Looks like it's back to the shelf for you.
No, definitely not.
After a few duds, we're able to actually craft our own personal wand from a selection of materials. If you were on the fan site and already created a wand there before the release of the game, you could choose to use that creation. As far as I know, these options are purely cosmetic, but still add to the aesthetic for me quite well.
Extraordinary. Another wand, another beginning of a bright and magical future.
Pardon me, sir. I'm here for the spellcrafts Professor Weasley ordered.
Matilda, student. I thought I might be seeing you soon.
Next, we're off to Tomes and Scrolls so that we can pick up a few spellcrafts. Spellcrafts will allow us to conjure things like potion stations or potting stations when we acquire a place to put such items. Next, we're to stop at J. Pippin's Potions to pick up a few recipes and potion supplies for when it's time for that class.
Well, Parry Pippin at your service. And this is J. Pippin's Potions. Potions for all ailments.
Lastly, we can have a stop by the Magic Neep for a few seeds for our herbology class.
Pardon me, sir. I'm here for the seeds Professor Weasley arranged for me to collect.
Oh, the dittany for the new 5th year. I take it that's you then.
So great. We've got all our supplies in order, so let's head back and check in with Sebastian.
I officially have all of my supplies.
Excellent.
Draw it away from the building! Away from the village!
The whole troll fight seems to be the perfect difficulty, not too hard, not too easy, and I really quite enjoyed it. The troll lumbers around, destroying structures and swinging a huge bladed mace to and fro. Our normal magic casting doesn't do much to damage it, but our character can use a special skill in order to throw objects at the troll for seemingly extra damage. As we dance around the troll, dodging seemingly fatal swings in a very graceful manner, the only thing on my mind is that I'm actually enjoying myself here. When you see the circular diagram icon over your head, that indicates an incoming blow. When the diagram is yellow, that means that the blow can be blocked and parried. When the diagram is red, that means the attack will be unblockable. We will elaborate more on this later. Not to mention, the finisher was super cool as we invoke something called Ancient Magic.
Goodness! A second troll! Did you two take on a fully grown troll? By yourselves?
Not many first-year students could take on a fully grown mountain troll and live to tell the tale.
We use our Reparo skill to clean up a few things around the town that was destroyed in the battle. One of the shop owners who runs a boutique decides to grant us a free set of robes in a nice gesture.
And as I suspect this won't be your last dangerous encounter, I'd like to give you one such set of robes, in thanks for what you did today.
It's not required for us to wear our house robes all the time, as each clothing slot has pieces of gear for us to equip that act like armor categorized by level. They all have their own stats and abilities attached to them, but if you do want to still appear as a normal Hogwarts student, you have outfits you can wear over your current armor. Finally, it's time to have that butterbeer I've been promised so many times, but first, something interesting catches our eye.
You said you could get to the child when they came to Hogsmeade. That all you needed was a distraction. I gave you a distraction.
I just watched a student take down your distraction. Who's this child? What are you not telling me?
The proprietor of the inn, Serona, treats us to drinks and gives us a warm welcome before we have visitors.
Now, what can I... Oh, there's a face I haven't seen before.
It's my first time here.
Welcome. Butterbeer's on me. How timely.
Was that Lodgok I saw leaving just now? Your clientele's not what it used to be, Serona.
Not to worry, Victor. Once the two of you leave, the caliber of my clientele will greatly improve. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Theophilus.
Come now. No need for theatrics. I'm only here for this one anyway.
My friend is enjoying a well-earned butterbeer.
Only want a quick word.
Perhaps you didn't hear me. I said, my friend is busy.
One would think you all had enough bloodshed for one day. Come, Theophilus. The Three Broomsticks isn't what it used to be. Let's take our galleons elsewhere. Can't drink butterbeer forever.
The next day back at the castle, we go to investigate that dueling club Sebastian mentioned. The organizer is a one Lucan Brattleby. Lucan organizes our first duel with Sebastian as our partner. These fights are actually very controllable as long as you pay close attention. The combat system really feels very well fleshed out, and I have a lot of fun using it if I'm honest. Basically what you're doing here is when you see an enemy with a certain color barrier around them, you need to use one of your skills with that same color template in order to break their shield, leaving them open to an attack. It's quite a simple and satisfying system. Professor Fig calls us into his office to talk about what happened in Hogsmeade Village. The professor says the next step in our journey requires us to know more destructive magic, so we're to speak with Professor Hecat before we can proceed any further.
Once you've honed your defensive magic further, come and see me.
We get done doing the task Fig asked of us and return to him for the next leg of our journey, but just before we can leave, we're interrupted by the complete douche of a headmaster, Professor Black.
Fig, I have work for you. Come.
Headmaster, I'm with a student and my schedule
Your schedule will wait indefinitely, as will your student.
It's a bit insane how this guy deems to speak to Professor Fig like he's some kind of worthless child or something. You know, come to mention it, Professor Black has neither introduced himself to us nor inquired our name. After coming from such a loving headmaster as Dumbledore in the main story, I have to admit, it's a bit of a surprise to have such a hostile one in this story. Not to say that it's a bad thing or anything, like I'm sure they have a perfectly good reason for doing it, but it does make me a little bit sad. I always looked upon Professor Dumbledore with such admiration and confidence, and it's created a certain type of atmosphere around the castle. The other professors do lend to that feeling that he provided in the Harry Potter stories, at least in the beginning, but for the most part the idea of an all-knowing legendary wizard isn't present yet in the world of Hogwarts Legacy. At least not for me. But let's be honest, it's not all that bad. I mean, I'm sure whatever they have in store for us involving Headmaster Black has gotta be good, right? He seems like a bad guy if you were to ask me just because of his attitude, but I know that's probably just a bit too obvious, so who knows. But for now, fuck this guy. One thing that I can say is a professor who can't even welcome his new students into his own facility has got to be a piece of shit. Anyway, we go and finally meet up with Sebastian for the first time after the troll attack and decide to tell him about what's really happened with Professor Fig and I before we arrived at Hogwarts.
Seems he's working with Ranrock, and Ranrock is after something I found at Gringotts.
Ranrock? And when were you at Gringotts?
Sebastian says he promises to keep what we told him a secret, and I believe him, but if time has taught me anything, it's that greatest threat isn't always someone blabbing your secret. There's often many other ways for people to use that information outside of telling other people. And that fact made me immediately regret my decision to tell him what happened. But we'll see what happens now, I guess. Since Professor Fig is taking care of whatever the hell the Headmaster Black wanted him to take care of, he couldn't accompany us on our journey to the restricted area of the library, which is where the map he found was leading. So instead, Sebastian in his mischievous ways decided that he can help us get there instead. Sebastian suggested that the librarian would be absent during our visit, which didn't turn out to be the case, so in order to infiltrate unnoticed, we will need to learn a new spell. The Disillusion spell. This spell will allow us to go partially invisible, but if someone gets too close, they will still be able to see us. We're able to sneak past the librarian quite easily and get the key to the restricted area, but the restricted area is actually being patrolled by a ghost that will rat you out if you're caught. But we can distract them by casting magic on inanimate objects to catch their attention and sneak around unnoticed. Before we actually reach our final destination, we need to cast Reparo on a suit of armor that's obstructing our path. In order to do that, we have to break our Disillusion spell, so we unstealth and...
Who have we here? Sebastian Solo and his new little friend, out exploring where they shouldn't be.
Goddamn Peeves, the poltergeist was waiting for us the whole time so he could go and tell the librarian. So Sebastian, saint that he is, decides to run interference and head back to make up some sort of story before Peeves can say whatever he's gonna say. All we can do is trust that Sebastian isn't gonna snitch us out and continue down our path. Now I do trust Sebastian and I really don't think he's gonna snitch us out, but I guess we'll see.
I have a way with the faculty when it comes to disciplinary matters. Besides, I like having friends who are in my debt. Now go.
So down and under the restricted area of the library lay a gate only accessible by people who can manipulate ancient magic. Just like we were in the vault at Gringotts, we head through the hidden gate and end up in a vault-like dungeon of sorts filled with the same type of guard knights we fought when we were in Gringotts. The vault really isn't too complicated. It's a linear dungeon with a few enemies and a couple really simple puzzles to work out. But can we talk about the goofy eyewear? I mean, what the hell, Porky? What's going on with the eyewear? I really don't think I'll ever wear any of this stuff outside of I don't know, some of these masks. I mean, like, what were they thinking? Thank God for the cosmetic options, because if I had to go through this game looking like this, I don't think I'd play. In the end of this dungeon, we find a mysterious book and are also shown another memory involving Professor Rackham and Professor Rookwood, as well as a few of their colleagues. They show up in an arid, infertile land to cast mysterious magic over the area, bringing back life and saturation. A young girl from the area happens to see them and acknowledge quite clearly what's actually going on. The magic they've casted seems to have actually altered the very state of nature in the affected area instead of just providing nourishment to it like water or fertilizer. What it seemed to do is make trees instantly bloom greener and have grass instantly grow. Having been noticed by Professor Rackham, he summons the young Isadora to a meeting with the professor after her inauguration to Hogwarts as a fifth-year student, just like us.
You wanted to see me? Headmistress Fitzgerald, Professor Rackham.
Miss Isadora Morganach, welcome.
They tell her that they want to teach her as well how to use such magic, but if she's to be allowed to learn it, she has to master her studies at Hogwarts and also promise not to tell anyone else what she was just told. I mean, check out the look on her face. I mean, come on. She can't be trusted. What were they thinking? We grab the book and get out of there just in time to catch Sebastian getting chewed out by the librarian and Peeves.
I'm afraid I must take this to the headmaster. But that being said...
She says that Peeves said he wasn't alone down there and that he'd better tell her right away who else he was with.
You're a bright boy. Don't waste this.
There was nobody else. I came alone.
Okay, that proves that Sebastian is a real one. I knew we were right to trust that guy. Good on you. It shall not be forgotten, sir. Before we go back to Fig, I noticed one of those bewitched moving pictures on the wall, and I can only imagine that the entire castle, as it should, has these photos. On top of the myriad contemporaneous activity going on around the castle, this game is truly a wonder of animation and engineering, to me at least. We return to Fig and let him know what we found under the restricted area and what we've witnessed in the memory.
I want to hear everything. First, let's have a look.
Fig seems rather impressed with our ingenuity and initiative and wants to investigate the book for himself. He quickly learns that the book has pages missing, which is always a big no-no, so now we have to investigate the disappearance of the missing pages.
Oh dear.
Fig won't be able to help us though. He's being sent to report to the Ministry in London about Mr. George Ostric's death to a dragon. Upon leaving Fig's office, we get notice from Natty that we're to meet her in Lower Hogsfield, a region just outside of the castle. Apparently she knows about Rookwood and Harlow for some reason.
Meet me in Lower Hogsfield as soon as possible. I would like to talk to you about Rookwood and Harlow.
But before we do that, it's time for our next bout of Crossed Wands. This time we're to battle against 4 other wizards, either alone or with Sebastian at our side. See, now this is kind of where I have a problem. If you're going to introduce a dueling club that has rankings, then don't just increase the number of wizards each duel. You need to incorporate more skilled duelists, not just increase the quantity of the same old ones. Not to say that the fights weren't fun, but it's just a cheap gimmick. When you really think about it, maybe it was all that they could do with the current system, because the way that you break a wizard's defenses is to attack them with the same type of barrier they have up. But you as a player can't put those kind of barriers up at will. All you can do is block and parry when you see an incoming attack, so there really couldn't be any sort of on par back and forth between wizards. Like, you couldn't put up a shield opposite of whatever element your opponent is attacking with. Partly because there is no indication of what element an opponent is attacking with, and also you're not always looking at the opponents when they attack. When I think about it, I can't really think of a way for them to increase the difficulty of this combat without adding more enemies to the equation, which is a little jarring, but it might be just that I'm overthinking it, so I'll just leave that alone for now, I guess. On the way out to meet Natty, we can actually stop by herbology class, so let's go there and meet the professor.
Good morning, Professor Garlick.
How wonderful it is to see you again, Lenora dear. Oh, here, you'll need these for today's class. A little treat for your auntie.
The Professor Garlick is a very bubbly young woman who seems way too nice for her own good, and she has quite the familiar lesson for us in our first class.
Keep him warm.
Longbottom's been neglecting his earmuffs.
After that, she will have us plant our own seeds we've collected previously from the magic neep. You plant the seeds at the potting table and then wait until they are done growing. These particular seeds we're planting right now are set against a 10-minute timer, which is definitely too long, but depending on their yield, it might be okay. In the meantime, she'll have us learn about a different type of plant called the chomping cabbages. Basically, you throw the cabbages at enemies and they go to work with gnashing teeth.
Well, imagine that wasn't a dummy.
Trust me, Leander. I was imagining it the entire time.
You were? I mean, of course, you're not someone to be trifled with. I see that.
Now we can finally go and see what Natsai is talking about. What does she mean she saw us? How? Apparently Natty was watching when we were accosted by Victor Rookwood and Harlow in the Three Broomsticks Inn with Sharona. Natty would like to actually offer her help with defending against Rookwood and Harlow should the need arise. Supposedly Rookwood and Harlow are in charge of some massive poaching operation, and Natty suggests that the two of us bust it up. Which sounds absolutely great. Sounds good to me. Natty will get back to us when she has more information. Sounds interesting.
For now, it is safe to say that Rookwood and Harlow are a threat to both of us. To all of us.
After speaking with Natsai, we hear someone off in the distance being accosted, so let's go see what's up.
I beg your pardon. How dare you threaten me?
What's going on here?
They must have come this way. Think! I've no idea who it is you think I might have seen. I've been busy with my research. I do not have time to...
Victor Rookwood don't give a doxy's nip back your time.
So it seems that these two thugs were ready to rough up this old woman at Wand Point in order to get information on our whereabouts per the orders of Victor Rookwood. Since we're a badass wizard now, kinda, it's time to defend ourselves and do what's right.
Accio! Incendio!
After we dispatch the two bums, a much more competent wizard seems to apparate out of nowhere with minions.
I'll watch the light go out of your eyes.
To break her down, you need to use damaging spells, which usually have a greater restriction attached to them, be it their range or recharge cooldown time.
Accio. Incendio.
You will pay for your deeds.
We make quick work of Rookwood's goons, and the old woman tells us about how she's researching Merlin, the legendary great wizard.
You're a researcher?
Nora Treadwell at your service, historian and archaeologist specializing in Merlin's work and life.
Within the lore of the wizarding world, Merlin was actually a Hogwarts student who was a member of House Slytherin. Historically, Merlin was a wizard in the court of King Arthur during the 5th and 6th century in Britain. The actual existence of Merlin is fiercely debated between historians and historical scholars, though. At least in the real world. Rumor has it he was taught by Salazar Slytherin himself during his time in Hogwarts, and till this day holds the title of the most famous wizard in existence within the wizarding world. Merlin, or the Prince of Charms, was vehemently opposed to the dark arts and championed the idea that wizards and muggles live together in harmony. Muggles being humans. Merlin is the creator of many puzzles found inside and outside of the Hogwarts grounds, including the one we're experiencing right now.
How beautiful!
So now it's finally time for a new class. Potions. So let's go and meet the professor.
Potions is one of the most challenging and hazardous subjects taught at this school. As 5th years, you will be required to reach new heights of both discipline and intellect.
There will be no foolish wand-waving or silly incantations in this class.
You will begin this term by brewing a Wigan Weld potion.
Potions is exactly what you think it is. You use materials you've cultivated in herbology and gathered along your journey to create concoctions that bolster your abilities or alter your physical state. The professor here is named Sharp, and he would like us to craft an Edorus potion. The ingredients we need are inside his office, and he gives us permission to head in and grab them. Before we head into the professor's office, we meet a new classmate.
I'm Gareth, by the way. Gareth Weasley. Bit of a prodigy with potions, if I do say so myself.
You must be the Weasleys.
Pleasure to meet you.
Gareth Weasley wants us to steal something from the professor's office so that he can craft some sort of specialized potion. Now, there's two things I've learned over my time at Hogwarts. One is the Weasleys are goofballs and likely will fuck up whatever he's trying to do anyway. And two, don't steal from the potions teachers. They always find out anyway, and even though we're a dark wizard, that's just not going to help in any direction. Surely enough, we tell Gareth we're just not going to be able to do it, in which he understands. But somehow he gets his hands on the ingredients anyway. At least I think he does, and he...
That's odd. What's happening? Wait, it's not supposed to... Ah!
Get it!
Dragon Dog! What happened?
Well done, Gareth.
What now, Mr. Weasley?
Sorry, my Wiggenweld potion's utter rubbish.
That'll be points from Gryffindor. Again.
Yeah. We return to the professor, and he already knew what Gareth was up to, somehow, apparently, which makes sense, and he knew also that we did not go through with it.
I saw Mr. Weasley speaking with you earlier. He can be quite persuasive. Glad you managed to resist.
I gotta tell you, man, these Weasleys, you really gotta be careful, because I don't want to look like a donkey alongside him.
Sunshine, daisies, buttermellow. Turn this stupid fat rat yellow.
He looks like a very nice person, though, I'm sure. We can be friends, but I doubt I'll be following him into any mischief during my time here at Hogwarts. Maybe on a subsequent playthrough as a Gryffindor we can get into Weasley shenanigans, though? Who knows, we'll see. Be on the lookout for some Let's Plays of the game on this channel. I gotta admit, I do appreciate the idea that they didn't try to make him our bestie like in the movies, though. They did try to rehash a good bit of scenarios from these movies, sure, but for the most part, I really do feel like this game is its own entity and separate from all that. We receive strange messages from someone called Scrope, who's leaving letters for us to find, leading us towards his location.
Get to the courtyard past the pendulum. If you don't know it, you'll see it easy enough. And don't tell anyone what you're up to.
After a bit of manipulative exploration, we're able to find him down by the shoreline of the lake.
Thank you for coming all this way.
Scrope is a house elf in service to the Black family, the headmaster's family. Scrope wants to find an item to give to his master, and he's heard that we may be en route to it. You see, there's a ring he wants, and he has knowledge it might be with the pages from the book we need. So it turns out that when house elves in service to House Black end their service, they are beheaded by their masters. That's right, they're affirmed any and everything I have already thought about Professor Black. If you can be the head of a family who's beheading anything, let alone your servants, you could not be more than evil scum, no matter what the circumstance. How in the hell can you be headmaster of one of the most illustrious wizarding schools in the land and be beheading people? The 1500s wizarding world was a dark place indeed. I mean, what the hell were they thinking? There's no way that Black doesn't answer for this before the end of the story. There's just no way. Oh, I'm on your ass now, Black. Think I'm joking. I dare you. Go ahead. So we head over to the place where Scrope thinks the ring is and where we were told we might find those missing pages of the book. Guarding this place are these half rock, half tadpole things called dugbogs, and they hit really hard. These things can take a lot of hits, and I need to be careful, especially when there's so many of them around. I don't think I've quite found whatever weakness they have yet, and I'll be in big trouble if too many of these things attack me at one time. Luckily, I'm able to actually safe spot a few of them. Safe spotting is when you attack an enemy from a spot where they can't actually attack you back, giving you free access to do all the damage you want at 0 risks. Dugbogs down, we can finally head into the grotto and find a ghost named Jackdaw.
Oh! Ah! Ooh!
Jackdaw already sold off the ring that Scrope wanted, but he does know where we can find the pages of the book we need, as he was the person who was last in possession of them. Jackdaw stole the pages of the book to try to give to a girl he was in love with, Apollonia Black, but he was killed in the process of retrieving the pages. Jackdaw agrees to lead us to where we might be able to find the pages, and he decides that he'll meet us there. Before meeting Jackdaw, we head back and let Scrope know that his ring just ain't there. Scrope seems disappointed that he can't please his master, who wants to cut his head off, but nonetheless he wishes us well before I notice an intriguing puzzle.
Thank you again, Scrope. You're a credit to house elves.
For this puzzle, you need to manipulate this nearby rune onto a platform and empower it using a type of magic depicted on the rune. Pretty simple and intuitive.
Incendio!
Inside the cave is a nice little treasure chest containing some gear. Puzzles like this are peppered all around the map. Before we go and meet with Jackdaw, it's time for defense against the Dark Arts class again, as we experience a brilliantly happy cutscene showing the events of the class. I would have liked for them to hold a class similar to the first one we actually went to, where we learned a spell with everyone during the class though. If we effectively only participate in class one time during this entire experience, I might actually be sad, depending. Depending on what, I do not know, but we will see how it plays out, because I do consider classes to be a pretty significant part of being a Hogwarts student, obviously. I wouldn't want to go through the rest of the experience here just seeing short cutscenes and not really engaging with class, so depending on how it's done, I might be sad. So we head into the Forbidden Forest to meet with Jackdaw's ghost, and he tells us he will lead us to the place before he gets cold feet, understandably not wanting to return to the place where he was beheaded.
We meet again, Richard Jackdaw.
I suppose I shouldn't be surprised to see you.
He bids us good luck and sends us on our way, but I end up going the wrong way and running into these goddamn spiders that are a lot higher level than me. I tried to fight as best I could, but ultimately I had to foot it because these guys were doing serious damage and I just was not. We arrive at this majestic lake with lacewing flies drifting atop the waterline and stags grazing the foliage. Very, very serene and a pretty location. Before we head into the cave, we're accosted by some Ranrock goblins who were actually waiting for us to show up. These guys attack with axes and maces. Most of their attacks can be blocked, but the pace at which they happen is more rapid than we've been experiencing up until now. As soon as you see that yellow indicator, you need to be on top of it or risk pretty significant damage. With those idiots taken care of, we head into the cave and are greeted with a pretty basic little puzzle. We're to hit 3 targets with our basic wand attack in quick succession in order to open the gate and conjure a bridge. Pretty simple.
Impressive. That must be where all this leads.
This place is filled with these really disgusting spiders, and as a person with arachnophobia, I had a rather tough time looking at the screen, let alone fighting these guys. What I would do is just watch my character for attack indication, and that's basically what got me through all the encounters. The cave also features a puzzle where you stand on these floating platforms and use Accio to pull yourself and the platform across chasms and crevasses. Nothing earth-shatteringly innovative or overly interesting, but it fit well enough within what made sense. Eventually we reach 2 matriarch spiders. They do the same thing as the little spiders, but with much higher damage, obviously. A number of their attacks are unblockable, and the best strategy when fighting them is to set one of the smaller spiders on fire and have them explode in range of the 2 matriarchs. I mean, I wasn't actually able to pull it off, but nonetheless, that's the best way to go.
Accio! Incendio! Expellium! Farewell, monster.
Inside the final room, we find Jackdaw's skeleton, surrounded by those Iron Knights we always find in these places. That would explain how Jackdaw lost his head. We can use our Expelliarmus spell to actually disarm the statues, as well as make them attack themselves if we're positioned correctly when they go for their Final Fantasy Dragoon jump. Their attacks are real easy to deal with, and I'm pretty sure if you can switch targets quickly enough, you can do something with their weapons after they're disarmed. I wasn't able to actually pull that off, but let me know in the comments below if that's even possible or if you've done it or something. I have to imagine that it is, because right after they're disarmed, it shows the weapons outlined in white, indicating that it's a targetable item.
Accio! Expelliarmus! Incendio! Levioso!
After we've defended ourselves, we're able to pass through yet another one of those ancient magic gates to a room that floods to the top. We happen to be protected from the water by unknown magic. I can only assume that if the person didn't possess the gift to use and see ancient magic like we did, that they would be purged from the chamber in that moment by drowning. We navigate the water into the next room where we're greeted by a portrait of Professor Rackham. Professor Rackham was the same age as us when he started at Hogwarts.
It's you.
Has someone finally found our map chamber?
I recognize you from the Pensives. You're Professor Rackham.
I am indeed. I must confess that I am surprised to see someone so young standing before me.
I'm the same age that you and Isadora Morganach were when you started at Hogwarts.
The professor inquires if we're in possession of the abilities that he thinks we're in possession of, but before we can actually discuss more, we're to place the book on the pedestal in the room. Of course, we don't have the book because it's in London with Professor Fig, and we won't be able to continue our conversation with Rackham until we actually bring the book here. So before we head back and find Professor Fig, we need to allocate a few talent points because that's something we haven't done yet at all. There's multiple talent trees for you to invest in, and they consist of spells, dark magic, core magic, stealth, and a tree called Room of Requirement. There's a lot of utility in these skill trees. For example, speccing into the core tree can grant you things like holding down dodge allows you to vanish quickly and reappear nearby. Perfect blocks contribute to your ancient magic meter. Your ancient magics now disarm enemies, or basic cast will reduce all spell cooldowns. We even end up getting one that allows us to have different spell palettes, meaning we can just have preset skill setups we can switch to in battle or exploration, extremely mitigating the need to assign spells. I take a look at the Dark Arts skill tree and it seems there's some really interesting stuff on there, including unforgivable curses. I can't wait to learn how to use those. As soon as we learn our first curse, that's when we truly become a dark wizard, and our hood can finally go over our head. You see, I refuse to put our hood up until we actually learn one, so look forward to that. Seems like Fig hasn't returned to Hogwarts yet, so we're to keep ourselves busy with classes and our studies until he returns. So now it's time for my favorite class, flying. We head out to the courtyard to initiate and wait until it's time for class. You see, you can only start certain classes at certain times of day.
Mr. Clopton, your attention, please.
Sorry, Madam Kagawa.
Everyone, please welcome a new student to our flying class.
Welcome.
Hello. The goal of today is to remind all of you how to maneuver on a broomstick safely.
The teacher here is Madam Kagawa, and she's a bit of a hard ass. She doesn't really put up with any sort of deviation, and it's all about discipline.
Up.
Thank you.
Now, your turn.
Up.
Up.
Up, you stupid ratty school broom.
Up.
Oh!
Shut up, Harry.
Now with broom in hand, it's time for our very first flight.
One leg over, so there's a leg on each side.
Mr. Longbottom. Mr. Longbottom!
The flying mechanics aren't really too difficult, but at the same time they aren't really that easy, and it feels less intuitive than you might imagine. I mean, they aren't Superman 64 levels of bad, but it still wasn't something I had perfect control over. We follow one of our classmates through the course that takes us on a beautiful flight through the campus, and I'm having a great time. The classmate we're following, Everett, seems impressed with our enthusiasm about flying and offers to take us on a bit of a detour despite Kagawa's instruction.
I say, I watched you fly through those rings. You seem to handle yourself on that dusty school broom well enough. I'd imagine you're ready for something a bit more challenging.
Of course we're going to do it, so Everett veers off course on his own custom path. As we follow Everett across the school grounds, the awesome scenery paired with the musical score is an experience I don't think I'll ever forget. Everett and I zoom past castle landmarks and over the famous bridge. I can really get a scale of how big the game actually is by looking off into the distance. I do wonder what's actually filling all of this visible space. The game clearly encompasses more than just Hogwarts Castle and Hogsmeade Village. In fact, what I'm seeing now would suggest that those two locations are just a small part of what's available.
That's Kagawa's whistle. This concludes our tour.
Madam Kagawa blows the whistle, indicating that we're to return to the starting point, and to me it seems that we've returned pretty expeditiously, but upon our return, she knows.
Oh, hello, Professor. We were trying to get a bit of extra practice in.
Hefty points will be taken from each of you for not following my instructions.
I don't care that we just got flamed though, because that was awesome and I'd do it again given the chance any day. Everett hints that we might be able to acquire our own broom if we visit a place called Spent Witches in Hogsmeade Village. I try to look for Spent Witches on the map, but I'm either just blind or it's actually not there on the map. I seemed to look at every icon I could and I didn't see it. I ended up actually finding the place by sheer dumb luck because the sign out front didn't seem to actually say Spent Witches on it, and I was staring pretty hard. Maybe I just can't see that well, but I have 20/20 vision, so I don't know.
Hello, Mr. Weeks, is it?
Albie Weeks at your service. Welcome to Spent Witches. Apologies if you came by before and weren't able to come in. Shop's been closed since trade routes were disrupted.
The proprietor, Mr. Albie Weeks, bids us to look around and see if we're interested in anything. There's a few brooms for us that are available at a small price, and they don't seem to have any differences outside of cosmetic. So I picked the coolest looking one, and now we have our own broom. Mr. Weeks asks us if we would assist him in a bit of product refinement, if you will. He would have us try to set records at the Quidditch training courses and report back to him with any findings. He will in return upgrade the flying and handling parameters of our broomstick. We head over to the first course, and that venomous little viper Imelda is waiting for us, of course, so that she could talk a bunch of jealous shit.
Hello, Imelda. Albie Weeks sent me.
Did he now? Still tinkering with his broom upgrade, no doubt. You've barely started flying from what I know. Caught wind of you showing off in flying class with Clopton.
Seems someone's jealous of my skills on a broom.
I'm not about to sit here and let Imelda talk a bunch of shit though. I don't know what the hell she thought this was, but now it's on. It's time to smash her. She challenges us to beat her record around the course, and I, personally, would love to beat the Slytherin Quidditch captain's record on our own course, so let's get to it. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this was actually a lot harder than it seemed. I missed about 2 or 3 rings, resulting in time off final lap time. Kinda like if you bump someone in GT3 or cross too far over the red and whites. All in all, we did pretty good time though. We're able to beat Imelda's record, and now we can head back and rub it all over her face.
Ugh, that's not... You must have cheated, you... Ugh! Fine. You won.
Imelda still talks a bunch of shit though, and we end up telling her off before she tries to challenge us to yet another course record at a different course. We return the good news and analysis back to Mr. Weeks, who says he will contact us again with upgrades when he's finished.
Tell me, how was the broom?
A little turbulent, and it's wanting for a bit of speed, but it fared well enough. I will say that it tended to drift a bit to the left on certain turns. Heard a slight swoosh when I dipped.
Oh, thank you. That's precisely what I needed to know.
Next, we can finally go meet Sebastian, who has something to show us.
It has. Glad you received my owl. I have something to show you.
First, let me thank you for what you did in the library.
Of course. Scribner tried to give me detention, but I have ways out of these things.
Well, you took the fall for me, and that counts for something.
Sebastian wants to show us a secret room called the Undercroft, who he thinks not even the professors know about. That is the stupidest thing I ever heard. If he thinks that there's something that he knows about that the professors don't know about, this man's lost his goddamn mind. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. The room is just a basic cellar where Ominous and Sebastian's sister used to play when they were younger. Sebastian's sister is not well and can't return to Hogwarts at this time. Sebastian admits that his best and oldest friend, Ominous Gaunt, is actually blind, which is why he navigates the castle using magical pulses from his wand. Just like a Slytherin, right? Blind is a snake. Well, not that snakes are completely blind, but they don't have good sight. You get what I'm saying. Sebastian has brought us down here so that he can teach us a new spell called Confringo, which is a long-range fire spell. Confringo is a very powerful spell and is a worthy addition to our arsenal.
But Confringo! Nice work.
Sebastian tells us more about his sister, who is basically bedridden and would appreciate if we would accompany him to visit her in the near future. Sebastian inquires a bit more about the great secret which we hold, and we tell him as much as we know about the ancient magic. He seems quite interested in the subject, and we promise to keep him appraised. We leave the Undercroft only to be caught by Ominous.
Hello, Sebastian. Wait. You there? I can hear you.
Oh, hello, Ominous. I was just heading to our common room.
I've recognized that voice.
We promise to Sebastian not to tell Ominous that we found this place, so we try to lie to him about it, but Ominous isn't having it and he's not stupid. He even promises to use his family's connections against us if we tell anyone about the Undercroft.
Don't lie to me. No one stumbles upon that room. Sebastian told you, didn't he?
We're not the Malfoy kind of wizard, though, where we go around snitching on people, so I don't think you're gonna have that problem out of us, Ominous. We don't talk to police.
Friends with the headmaster. I am not afraid to exploit that connection if I need to.
So, as alluded to in our skill tree guide, it's time for us to learn about the Room of Requirement. We meet with Professor Weasley in a remote corner of the castle only to be instructed of the existence of the Room of Requirement. With our need being as great as it is, the room sees fit to present itself to us before Professor Weasley can even arrive at the meeting place. The Room of Requirement will appear to students within the castle who have great need. When the room appears, it will materialize equipped with the needs of that specific student it appeared to. If you are in great need of a bed, it will appear as a room with a bed in it. If you are in great need of food, it will appear as a room lavished by a great feast, and so on and so forth. The majority of students will never have the opportunity to see this room, but it seems that we were able to find it quite easily. Deke, the house elf, friend of the Weasleys, is there in order to help us out with the room acclimating to us and our needs more specifically.
Imagine the room precisely as you need it. The room will do the rest.
The room morphs into an open space, kind of like our own house or living quarters.
You've given yourself quite a canvas to work with.
The room comes equipped with a desk of description that we can use to identify articles of clothing or armor that we're in possession of labeled as unidentified. Professor Weasley teaches us a couple spells we need in order to furnish our new room with amenities and cosmetic items, such as potting tables, potion stations, rugs, chairs, paintings, all that, you get it. This is perfect because now we can place multiple potion stations or multiple potting stations and have a much higher yield of product. We can even change the very foundation itself of the place, as well as the ambience via Deke the house elf, seemingly our new housekeeper here. It's a nice little housing system that you could spend a pretty decent amount of time customizing, if I'm honest. So I put down the bare minimum and it's time to move on from here. So once again, it's time for class. This time it'll be our second potions class. Sadly, it's one of these non-interactive cutscenes again. Maybe in later chapters of the game, classes will start to be interactive again, and I can only hope, but I'm willing to wait. After class, Professor Sharp teaches us a new spell called Depulso that uses force to knock objects back. We will end up really needing that to solve many puzzles and get through obstacles on our journey. What classes seem to facilitate now is us learning new spells for our adventure after short cutscenes. And finally, Professor Fig has returned to Hogwarts, and we can go fill him in about all that's happened with Professor Rackham in the missing pages. So we gather the book and head back to the secret room below Hogwarts so that we can continue our conversation with Professor Rackham. When we arrive, the pedestal begins to seemingly glow in response to the book, and Professor Fig lays the book on the pedestal, revealing a map of sorts beneath the floor. This is why they call it the map room. Professor Rackham and Professor Rookwood use the map to detail locations of trials they have set for those chosen people who can see and use ancient magic. We will need to head to each location detailed and complete a trial. The first being a tower a short ways from the castle. So Professor Fig will be able to accompany us to the location but will not be able to participate in the trial, as he does not share the gift. So we arrive at the tower and it's already been occupied by Ranrock's goblin loyalist. The professor suggests that we use Disillusion Charm in order to stealthily sneak through and dispatch goblins. If you are under the effects of your Disillusion Charm and sneak up on an enemy undetected, you're able to use Petrificus Totalis and petrify them, putting them out of business indefinitely. We advance through the camp, dispatching Ranrock goblins until we reach the scripted bit where you can no longer be in stealth and it's time to fight.
I will draw blood.
There's a lot of these goblins and they attack in pretty quick succession. This is where it can actually get pretty tough depending on whether they're targeting you or Fig. These guys can hit you pretty hard and fast, and when it's 5 at one time, you'll have to use a bit of ingenuity to escape such a situation. This is where you really want skill points allocated that encompass area of effect skills. When you anticipate an attack to be blockable but it's a quick unblockable attack, that can really throw you off and very easily confuse your button inputs. If you're watching a certain enemy and trying to match their barrier shield with one of your own spells to break that shield, while 3 different enemies are plotting different things behind you and not waiting at all, it can be chaos. What you really want to do is try to survive each encounter within 1 health bar, because after the battle, no matter what, your health will recharge all the way to full. So if you can survive within that health bar, then you can effectively save all your Wiggenweld potions indefinitely, and always have a full stock for those truly difficult situations. With the initial battle over, we need to leave Fig behind and head into the ancient magic well, which lets us into the dungeon for the trial. The main gimmick of this place is that it has these gateways you can travel through that will change the layout of the room you're in. You'll need to use these gates going in and out of both realities to work out ways to advance your path. It isn't too difficult, but it can be confusing, especially when you don't physically see what changed on either side of the gate. After fighting off a number of large and small pensive protectors, we're able to finally reach the challenge, which is a thick boss. The same suit of armor we saw in the Gringotts Vault. I was actually quite shocked by its lack of depth and ease of difficulty. I would imagine that further we go in the story, these guys will accrue more and more mechanics to their arsenal of attack, or at least I hope. In our next pensive memory, we get to see another of the young Isadora Morganach learning how to control ancient magic from Professor Rackham. Isadora voices concerns about her father and his suffering due to the loss of her little brother.
So I'm to watch as my father's pain destroys him.
It is not your pain to take.
Isadora would like to try to alter her father's emotions with this newly learned magic, but Professor Rackham, of course, says that this is too dangerous to even try. I mean, I say it's pretty obvious as to why you probably shouldn't start doing crap like this, but young Isadora is clearly none too bright. This is basically the exact nonsense the professors were initially skeptical of departing such knowledge to just anyone. The memory then cuts to years in the future, where Isadora has become a Hogwarts professor. She invites the professors to her home for a discussion.
I was so pleased to hear that you had accepted the position of Defense Against the Dark Arts Professor.
Professor Rackham and Professor Rookwood tell us that we need to continue completing trials, and they will inform us when we are ready to attempt the next.
To complete the journey we have set forth for you. Once you have them all, we will tell you what to do with them.
Very well.
Professor Rackham and Professor Rookwood tell us that we need to continue completing trials, and they will inform us when we are ready to attempt the next. Professor Fig says we need to take this time and learn more about what's going on with Ranrock. We saw Serona at the broomstick speaking with a goblin guest, and that seems like a perfectly decent place to begin our inquiries. It's back to class for us, and this time it'll be divination, which is the art of predicting the future through various methods, such as crystal balls, palm readings, or tea leaf readings, amongst other things. As divination was different from other magical subjects requiring the practitioners to possess a certain natural aptitude, it wasn't taken as serious as its academic counterparts. No amount of hard work or study could gift a student with the prowess in the art of divination. In fact, a certain headmaster even deemed to strike divination from the curriculum completely, only choosing to withhold the class that a certain Hogwarts professor might be protected from dark forces outside the castle.
Oh, sweetie. Thank you. Thank you. Dumbledore?
The professor in this instance is Mudiwa Onai, mother to Natsai Onai. Is it weird to anyone else that we didn't get any oral introduction to this character? We went into the class like it was our second time being here or something. A bit weird?
I am curious. Based upon the knowledge that one's present and even one's past may reveal traces of what is to come.
So the caretaker, Mr. Gladwin Moon, who definitely has some weird stuff going on, sends us on a short quest where he teaches us Alohomora, the lock-picking spell. This spell doesn't need to be actually slotted into the spell palette. You're prompted to use it on a lock when you get close enough, and then you play a simple minigame to get it open. This spell will end up coming in extremely handy for us to get into restricted sections and into treasure rooms around the castle. After that short lesson in lockpicking, we can jump right into another new class, Beast.
Welcome, everyone. I see you've already met some of the many beasts we study in this class. Though be advised, none of these creatures should be taken lightly.
I gotta say, the professor here, Professor Bai Howen, doesn't really fit the part, not to me at least. Beast is one of the more exotic classes, at least in my mind, and when I imagine a beast professor, I imagine someone who's a bit of an outcast, a deviant, you know, a bit of a wild card, if you will. Professor Howen is just not that. She's stiff and really just rather bland.
Yes, Professor Howen. Hello, I'm Poppy Sweeting.
I'd expect a beast professor to have some sort of dangerous exotic pet that comes and goes like a dragon or a huge wolf pet, you know, who's kind of always at a distance. This professor just doesn't seem to have any kind of real connection to Beast or really anything. She's just square. Our newest friend we meet in Beast class is Poppy Sweeting, who's a bit of a goody two-shoes and really seems to love beasts.
Stupid thing.
What in Merlin's name are you doing?
Tuss, peculiar Poppy. Worried about a worthless little rodent?
Her name is Persephone!
Her name is Persephone!
That's really not funny.
That actually was pretty damn funny though. Like, this dude is sitting here trying to pull the whiskers off the cat. Why are you screeching about whether the cat's name is Persephone or not? It's rather cringe. Like, who the hell cares what the cat's name? Right now, it's time to take care of this asshole who's trying to pull whiskers off the cat's face, Poppy. So being impressed with our bravery to stand up to those would-be poachers, Poppy would like to divulge a certain secret to us after class.
We're of a similar mind. Actually, in light of that, there's someone I'd like you to meet.
Poppy leads us down a path into a clearing so that we might meet someone very amazing. Poppy whistles, and no less than 2 seconds later, an entire hippogriff flies down from the skies. Now, either this thing has super hearing and super speed, or me and Poppy are going to have a talk later. The mechanics to take care of Beast include 2 spells at the moment that allow us to use magic to feed and groom a beast, which we use on Highwing before she takes back to the skies. Poppy had saved Highwing from the clutches of local poachers and decides that she will ask us to assist in taking them down. just like Natty. Certain class assignments that we have include things like popping balloons on our broomstick in certain areas of the map, and often you have to go a long ways to reach them. This map is truly huge, as I've said before, and the aerial achievements really do add that extra layer of depth alongside underground dungeons and overworld enemies and events. The balloon achievements are basically the same thing as the Quidditch courses we've been doing with Imelda, where the balloons serve as the rings. So at the end of all of our assignments, we're allowed to learn a new spell. In this instance, we're allowed to learn Arresto Momentum, which can halt objects' movement. The amount of spells we actually have access to are myriad, and I really didn't expect so many to be incorporated into the game or gameplay. With so many spells, you can mix it up big time, as everything is useful in some way in battle. Be it halting an enemy's movement with Arresto Momentum or halting a projectile with it. Now it's back to the main story where we speak with Sirona at the Three Broomsticks. She tells us that her and Lodgok, the goblin, are old friends and that he can be trusted.
You were speaking to a goblin here that day?
Yes, Lodgok. He's a friend.
Sirona sends us to Lodgok with her trust and blessing. Lodgok is reluctant to trust us, as is natural between goblin kind and wizard kind. After we name drop Sirona, Lodgok opens up to us just a little bit, agreeing to help us learn a little bit more about Ranrock's intentions. But not without doing something for him first, obviously. Lodgok would have us delve a certain ruin to retrieve a relic once stolen from goblin kind. Apparently, the ruin contains puzzles only accessible by wand holders. These ruins are dark, so your Lumos spell is basically required here. The Lumos spell attracts what looks like to be gilded mechanical moths, which you are to take and place in moth-shaped indentations on certain doors to open them. The enemies inside this cave consist of basic skeletons called Inferi, who are only affected by fire spells, strangely. To me, the skeletons in the cave seem a bit of a cop-out. With the myriad amazing beasts and creatures available in the wizarding world, I can't really understand the need to go with a basic skeleton. There could have been any number of awesome, lore-friendly creatures to use here, but hey, I guess you can't win them all. I'm sure there was tons to do for the dev team, and skeletons are just a bit simple to design and animate, I guess. We come to the end of the ruin and find dead Ashwinders. Apparently they've made off with the relic. We head outside and tell Lodgok, and he seems to think the relic would be in a nearby Ashwinder camp.
Their campsite's not far from here, but I fear you must go in alone.
We head over to the Ashwinder camp, and they are under siege by a troll, so we take advantage of that opportunity to finish off the troll with them, before turning our wand on the Ashwinders themselves. The Ashwinders have placed the relic in a basic chest just left unlocked around the camp, but as soon as we take it, a couple of significant dark wizards show up to contest. We take them down and head back to Lodgok, who gladly accepts the relic, obviously. Only problem is he doesn't uphold his end of the bargain immediately, which does bother me. He even alludes to some bit of information that he won't tell us.
It may distract him from his search.
His search?
It is merely an inkling. You have impressed me greatly, friend.
All of a sudden, this guy just doesn't seem trustworthy at all. I mean, what kind of bullshit is this? How am I supposed to trust you now? Lodgok says we'll speak soon, but what are you going to find out in that short of time that you don't already know right now? Makes little sense, Lodgok. So Deke bids us return to the room of requirement where he's found a knapsack, presumably dropped off by Professor Howen. Supposedly, this thing is for procuring our own beast, and Deke would have us learn how to properly make use of it.
A knapsack. Perfect for gathering and transporting beasts.
By Deke's thinking, it would be more appropriate for beasts to be in our possession than in the possession of poachers, so he would have us catch all the beasts that we can. In order to catch them, what you need to do is get as close as possible. Now, that won't be as easy as it sounds, because if you've ever been around any other animals besides humans, then you know that they usually don't like to keep close proximity. You'll usually need to use a spell to limit their movement. Luckily, we've just learned Arresto Momentum.
Arresto Momentum.
Deke takes us to quite a few habitats to catch a number of different beasts. After we've got the beasts, we return to the room of requirement with Deke and think hard about what we need to take care of them, and the room will do the rest.
What exactly did you think of?
These new habitats will hold a number of different beasts that we can catch on our journey. The point of us actually having these beasts is not just to pointlessly raise animals, but for us to procure certain materials needed to upgrade our gear with. If you feed and groom your beast, it will provide you with a certain raw material immediately depending on the beasts. After you feed and groom a beast, those mechanics will go on a cooldown timer until you can use that mechanic again and gather materials again. The perfect incentive to take care of the beast you've attained. So we head out a ways away from the castle to Sebastian's home to meet his sister, Anne, and his uncle, a former Auror. Sebastian tells tale of how his sister Anne was cursed by goblins near to a nearby castle named Rookwood Castle. You can tell that Sebastian has serious prejudices going on with goblins.
Aha! Sebastian, where did you... Is that what I think it is?
We've been over this, boy. Hey. Shrivelfigs cannot reverse a curse. Nothing can. The sooner you accept that reality, the better.
But we haven't tried everything.
There is no cure! When will you accept that?
Never! I can never accept it.
Now look what you've done.
Sebastian's uncle seems to be quite cross with the notion that Sebastian would like to cure Anne's curse, not to mention Sebastian himself. His uncle believes that Sebastian constantly giving Anne hope of a cure is cruel, and he resents Sebastian for it. To me, he seems like a guy that's honestly a toxicity in the life of Anne and Sebastian alike. Any adult who will undertake that sort of tone and that sort of attitude with the children he's supposed to be the guardian of couldn't be that good of a person. But what do I know about their family and what they've gone through? But all in all, that kind of attitude being a help to anyone is an impossibility. I mean, he's even got Anne thinking that there's no hope, and that's really sad. Sebastian decides to take us to the place Anne was cursed, just outside of the village. When we arrive, we're immediately attacked by some pretty vicious goblins. Sebastian would have us search the surrounding area for any clues on Anne's curse. Upon a bit of investigation, we're able to ascertain that this house was the home of Isadora Morganach, previous Hogwarts professor and the girl from the Pensives. Upon further exploration of the house, we find multiple notes written by Isadora as well as another stone wall that we can see through. This particular one leads back into the Hogwarts Undercroft. So we know that Isadora was somehow connected to the Undercroft in some way, but Isadora lived hundreds of years ago. Mysteries behind an obvious dark witch who lived hundreds of years ago? Count me in. Now, I don't know for sure that Isadora is a dark wizard or witch, or even if she's the culprit or any of this, but come on, you know it's her. We get a message from Natty, who's been creeping around and spying on Rookwood and Harlow. She's finally got a lead for us to investigate. She leads us out to some abandoned stronghold that has tangible proof that we could hand over to the authorities and kick off a proper investigation into Harlow, who's apparently somewhere inside the castle. After we solve a few puzzles with object manipulation, climbing up ledges and traversing dank cellars where they've beast captive, we're able to spot a particularly familiar beast.
High Wing.
These assholes have got High Wing, so now it's on. We've got to pull this off and save High Wing and get the evidence for the authorities. No turning back now. We reach the top of the tower where they've got High Wing and a friend locked up. We mount High Wing as Natty pops the locks off their shackles. High Wing snatches up Natty and we're off. As you can see and hear Theophilus Harlow casting the killing curse at us in the background. We make a magnificent escape atop the two hippogriffs as we fly across the land and back towards Hogwarts Castle.
Ho, ho!
Now, if we're talking about adventurous, that was adventurous. This game is full of moments like this, and with this adventure far from over, this might just be my new favorite game of all time. As a vehicle to explore the wizarding world, I'd have to give it a 9 out of 10, and a video game, I'd also have to give it a 9 out of 10. We've not even touched on any of the side quests the game has to offer. When I think about Hogwarts, what I imagine is unique mystery and just that level of excitement. And I can say what's offered here does not disappoint. Hogwarts Legacy is a perfect substantive addition to the world of wizarding. And it's not like you have to have vast prior knowledge to the wizarding world either, because they do their best to explain things as they arise for the most part. I wouldn't just recommend this title as a vehicle for the wizarding world, but also as a video game, even for people who don't even know the franchise. I really do feel that people who have never seen or heard of Harry Potter can jump into this game and have just as much fun as I'm having. It's really that good. The game is still wildly popular among the player base even right now, with the game being reviewed over 185,000 times on Steam and reviews being mostly very positive. In my opinion, Portkey Games absolutely smashed it out of the park with this one, and I really can't wait to see what they'll do next. Be that additional DLC to the game or a completely new game, who knows? With the way this game is laid out, I could see many different possible scenarios and ways this could go. Be that the story continuing to where you become an Auror in the future, or even playing as a Hogwarts professor. I could see a world where we explore different school years and not just the 5th year, or even maybe different schools of witchcraft and wizarding altogether. Really, with this world, the possibilities are truly endless with what can be done, and I do hope they continue to expand on the magnificence of what they already have in this amazing franchise that we all know and love. So hey, what did you guys think of Hogwarts Legacy? You guys enjoy it? Can't stand it? Well, whether you love the game or despise it, I hope from the bottom of my heart that you guys are having fun out there in this golden age of video games. Hey guys, Blaine Blast here. Thanks for checking out my video, I really appreciate that. I couldn't even tell you how much it means. I hope you guys got even a little bit of enjoyment out of this one, and I hope to see you in the next one. Blaine Blast out.
The choices you make now will define the legacy of Hogwarts.